This will be the last lecture, and we will be focusing on um, reviewing what we covered during the 12 weeks. Uh, During this 12 weeks, we began talking with about introducing each other with welcomes and introductions, and found out that we had 9 students, and most of the students were from Nevada, but we had students from other parts of the country in various states, including Oregon, Tennessee, New Mexico, and myself coming from Ohio. And students that came from different backgrounds, probation, clerk's offices, federal probation, juvenile probation, and other areas, programmatic areas. We reviewed the course competencies and course objectives, and we talked about the different assignments, including 2 journals and a group PowerPoint presentation, a research paper which is still due, and we also introduced the textbooks, Supervision and Social Work by Alfred Kadushin and Daniel Harkness, the 4th edition, and Interactional Supervision by Lawrence Schulman. We then discussed the history and definition and significance of supervision. We had a brief overview regarding the history, a definition of supervision, and everyone caught the air where I had the words qualitative printed twice, where it should have been qualitative and quantitative, but there was a mistake. And then we talked about the types of supervision, including administrative supervision, educational supervision, and supportive supervision. And we reviewed the article, What Makes a Good Supervisor, that was completed by Kadushin and Harkness, which was an interesting article, and Schulman's interactional supervision model. We began talking about administrative supervision and the systems approach, and what is administrative supervision, which primarily deals with the administrative aspects of the policies and procedures and the organizational operations of the agency or the program in which the supervisor is lodged. And we looked at the legal ramifications and the various Department of Labor fact sheets, reviewing the basic information with basic laws that supervisors should become familiar with or have access to from their human resources staff, the Family Medical Leave Act, some specific fact sheets regarding the Fair Labor Standards Act and the Family Medical Leave Act, and who is covered under the Family Medical Leave Act. The week that followed the introduction to administrative supervision focused on problems in the implementation of supervision. 2 key points: what is authority and what is power. As a supervisor, you have authority, but you also have the power to do something with that particular authority. And you need to know how to use that particular power. And we discussed the different kinds of social powers that the supervisor has and how this is used. And we also talked about problems of implementation and the legal ramification of some of these problems, and vicarious supervision and the importance of vicarious supervision in your role as a supervisor. The most critical chapter of all that we discussed was the component of educational supervision. What is your role within the agency and your role as a supervisor, and the differences between supervision and staff development and supervision. And one critical piece here is that it is recognized that many of us become supervisors because we were good workers, but we need to learn different kinds of skills as supervisors in our educational supervision. And our responsibility in educational supervision is to help the worker become a better worker and provide support in an educational way in terms of teaching that worker their jobs, in terms of their knowledge, skills, and attributes. And that's very, very crucial. We need to learn as managers, as supervisors, principles of adult learning. And we discussed these various principles. We had an interesting article to read regarding adult learning principles, and what needs to be done in our role in providing educational supervision. Again, we discussed the principles and problems that encountered with respect to educational supervision and what it is that the supervisor needs to understand with respect to how different staff learn differently, and how we need to overcome and recognize these differences in learning styles, and what is our role in helping staff grow and reassessing how we're working with that particular individual as we discussed these various principles. Supportive supervision is a very critical piece of what the supervisor needs to do, and that is to provide staff with the support that is necessary and required to perform their particular job. And in this supportive process, how do we prevent stress? How do we prevent burnout so that it doesn't impact us as supervisors, and it also doesn't impact the employee as supervisors, as supervisees in the performance of their particular job. And we also discussed Schulman's chapter dealing with helping staff cope with trauma, and we discussed a number of different issues and different types of trauma that staff can encounter, and what we would do in those particular scenarios in working with staff.